Since you were talking about the jail, this is so apt. An absolute supernatural, that's page 11, an absolute supernatural darkness falls on man sometimes when he draws near to God. Perhaps that is a necessary condition sometimes. Nothing else seems to be part of your life. Everything is gone. Only then can you turn wholly to the divine. An hour arrives when fail all nature's means. Nature's means intelligence, will, or help from whatever circumstances or others or environment, or even prayer or nothing seems to work. Then man is forced out of the protecting ignorance. It's a very unusual word, but it is so apt because we have these coverings of darkness and ignorance, and they in a way shelter us, these coverings, from that very strong experience for which we are not ready. When we are ready, then we are forced out of these coverings. Otherwise, there are layers of mind, life, body. All of these have elements of ignorance and error in them. We identify ourselves with them. The inmost spirit, which is the essence, which is the divine essence in all, remains completely withdrawn in the background. There is a time, that is a moment which is required. Elsewhere, Sri Aurobindo has said, ripeness is all. One has to be ready for the experience. One cannot rush into these things. So there are moments, like for Sri Aurobindo, he had begun his spiritual experiences already in Baroda. Yet he had plunged into the political field. He had not given himself time to go deeper. He was taken up by all the external activities. It is as if this that later told him, you were not giving time to your inner life. You were too much preoccupied with all your external activities. And therefore, because he asked God, what did I do? Why have you put me in this condition? He said, this is the reason. There are moments when we have to find our real selves. These moments may come perhaps after many lives. One has to be ready. One has to shed off one after the other. So many layers. Then we become our true, essential, naked, ungarbed, unclothed being. We become that being which we have wrapped up and covered and pushed into the background. That being comes into the forefront. And therefore move away from his surface soul. Man has to move away from his surface soul and be the ungarbed entity within. That hour had fallen now on Savitri. A point she had reached where life must be in vain or in her unborn element awake. This is the choice. Either we wake up, that moment of deep inner perception, it's not quite a realization, but a perception that without that contact with the inmost being, there is no meaning to life. Mother has given us that sentence. Without the divine, life is a painful illusion. With him, all is bliss. So that was a sentence she had written long ago. The same thing. Either it must be in vain, it makes no sense. We live on the surface, time passes, circumstances come and go, experiences fill your life. You say, I have gone through many things. But what has remained? It's like water from the ocean that reaches the sand and then goes back, and nothing is left, no trace of that ocean on the sand after a while. We are all plunged in the divine. We cannot exist without him. And yet we have absolutely no perception of that. We cannot breathe without him, without his grace. But do we realize, do we bother to take the trouble to find out? We are so busy with our surface existence. That is to be in vain, of no value. It's useless. So we come to go, or to awake to that eternal presence which is never born, which is always there, which has always been there before time, before space, before creation. We are part of that eternal. We are not only time-bound. The surface being is time-bound, limited. The essential being is eternal. That is why we mortals are also children of immortality. But we have forgotten that we are children of immortality. Her will must cancel her body's destiny. The body's destiny, that part which is still there, untransformed, unchanged. First, the inner connection, the inner realization, the inner, not just contact, but an identification with the inner being has to happen. Then that consciousness will have to slowly manifest itself in life, in mind, and in body. That will be the last. Body is made of the stuff of matter. Matter has the essence of inertia in conscience. To be able to break that resistance, that will be the last. But that is the base. That is the foundation. Our bodily life or the world of matter is our base. Otherwise, we always have to feel that we are, yes, like we are reading Sri Aurobindo, we are filled with a certain, not only devotion or illumination, but maybe even some experiences may come to us readers. Why do we then not change our surface nature? Because we do not. Because this surface nature is made of solid, dense inertia. That is why the body's destiny continues to remain the same, however much one may realize inner truths and inner experiences. It will have to change, but it is a long, slow process which slowly has to be taken up. And that is the real destiny of the body, to become an expression of the eternal. Death is not the final destiny. As Mother has put it in a very simple, almost laughable sentence in one of her talks, death is a bad habit. La mort, c'est une mauvaise habitude. It says, like habits are difficult to change, and a habit that has lasted millions of years will be that much more difficult to change, but it is just a habit. It is not something that is essentially required. A habit is something you can do without, but you got attached to it, and then after a while you say, I can't do without it. It can be removed. So that is what she too, because she has put on the human nature. She has come on earth to help humanity. How can she help humanity unless she puts on the human nature, the human problems, the human existence, and work her own way out of these so that others can follow in her footsteps? Or in her, either that or she must awake to her unborn element. Her will must, this has to start with a will. The absolute concentration of will, which is very, very strong, must cancel her body's destiny. For only the unborn spirit's timeless power can lift the yoke imposed by birth in time. The unborn spirit, the unborn element, the eternal, can lift the bondage, the servitude that is imposed on us by birth in time. Time is the framework in which we are caught. Time has a beginning, your life has a beginning, your life has an end. Time begins in order to end. This is the framework of time and space. The unborn is beyond time and space. The eternal, the transcendent. The supreme transcendent is present in every individual. It may be a very small, unnoticed presence, but it is the infinite. The infinite is vast, the vast is present in the small. So if that is allowed to take over, then it can lift this yoke, the symbol of servitude, the symbol of real acceptance of servitude. We bow before this, you might say, bondage to death and say it is impossible to change this. We have already accepted defeat before we have fought the battle, which is what we do. We accepted that we cannot be otherwise, it has to be like that. But this is not our real self. This is what he describes our surface existence is the figure of self. It's just an appearance. Only the self with a big S, the essential divine, that builds this figure of self. But he does it for a reason. He puts us into this limited and, you might say, dark individuality where there is ignorance, where there is incapacity, therefore suffering, therefore pain, therefore death. How can you free yourself unless you can come out of your prison? We are imprisoned by our own selves, by our own natures. So it is as if to be able to make us aware that we are not what we think we are. We are something other. But that something other has put before itself this outer form, which seems to be everything. This is us, you say. This is my life, this is my nature, this is my face, form, body, existence, capacity, incapacity. I identify myself with this. I don't identify myself with the infinite and the eternal, whom I don't know. That is also who I am. So sometimes we mistake the mask to be the face, the outer expression, the outer embodiment to be the truth. We don't go far enough. So perhaps because we have to learn how to distinguish, how to break our mental approach, because mind likes to divide, likes to put things into categories and say this is small, that is great, this is dark, that is light. All these things which puts us in the nature of the small mental being. We are other than that also. But we have to break out of this. But how can you break out of something if before that you are not already in the prison? You can't come out of prison unless you are first in prison. So we are in ignorance, we are in inconscience. And it is through these that evolution will show how we can come out of it. Evolution will take time. It takes time. But if you want to speed up the process, that is no longer just evolution, it becomes yoga. Yoga is accelerated evolution. You take charge of your own journey and not expect nature to make your journey for you, because she is not in a hurry, as Mother says also. She goes meandering, winding on. She takes her time. She is a projection of the eternal. She has eternity before her. But if I am time bound and I want to come out of this, I have to first of all, I have to become conscious that this is what I have to stop being. And only then can I come out into some other range of experience. So this, only the self that builds this figure of self can raise the fixed interminable line that joins these changing names, these numberless lives. That self, that supreme presence can erase. Raise here is erase, can wipe off, can cancel. Otherwise we have to follow the, you might say, modes, processes fixed by time, by nature. There is a method in everything. There is a law, there is a rule, and we move according to that. Just as in the world of time, a child is not straight away the man. He has to grow. But the possibility of the man is present in the child already. And so he grows into the man. The possibility of perfection is hidden in the imperfect, which is why at some point we can't really accept imperfection and error and pain. If we suffer, it's because we know it's wrong. Something hurts, you know it's wrong. Because you know there's something else, which I still don't know maybe, but I know that I have to come out of this state to find that. So it is as if these experiences become stepping stones so that we may grow from what we are to what we can be or what we really essentially are, but we don't know it ourselves. So we have to become ourselves, our true selves. That is a line, that fixed interminable line which seems endless. It is evolution. You move from, like on a journey, you move step by step. The line has been drawn and we move along. Sri Aurobindo describes it elsewhere as a kind of an ascension or a staircase, and you have to climb a little at a time. These evolutionary changes that joins these changing names, these numberless lives, which we are not aware of. I am aware, if I that also incompletely, of this present existence. But today we are what we are, where we are, because of what we were. What were we before? We have no knowledge. But there is no confusion in nature. There is no disorder. There is no chaos. Everything is extremely orderly and well planned. So if we find ourselves here on earth today, or here in this place which is even more of a grace. It is not by accident. It is not something that is just a happening. It is due to a long preparation which must have begun very long ago. So there is a kind of a journey. Life is a journey. And a journey proceeds step by step. But it is the end that decides the journey. It is where you finally have to go. That's what prepares the journey. But how long will you proceed towards, will you take to go to the end? Will you sit down by the wayside, or will you go back to the beginning and say, I liked it before the way it was? You are allowed to do that. But the stages are fixed. That's why it's almost interminable. We repeat the same cycle for so long. We don't break out of our littlenesses. But the future stages are already demarcated, they are there, they are drawn. Someday we have to say, that's enough, I'm no longer interested in all these things, now I want to break out. Until then, some part in our nature is interested, is attached to dullness, is attached to ignorance. It's very, very pleasant to fall asleep in inertia. One can sleep quietly in peace, or one can sleep in a deep, unconscious inertia. You don't have to worry then. So we go back into that inertia again and again. That's why it's so interminable. We don't proceed forward necessarily.
Other lives? We have numberless names.
Yes, other lives, because this life, it's not a series of incidents. It's a development of consciousness. We go through experiences and incidents. They are actually opportunities to develop the consciousness. Evolution is a development of consciousness. And it's not a straightforward development. That's the problem. Because when we break out of from the less conscious to the more conscious, the impurities that were there in the lower nature of the less conscious state we were in still stick to us. They don't go away. So they pull us, they drag us down. But it is not a series of incidents. So you say, in my previous life I was this, I was that, maybe I was somewhere. Well, maybe, but that's not the important thing. Whether the person who tells you that in your previous life you were an Egyptian queen, it makes you feel happy. But that's not the point. The point is, what had you gained by that existence, by that previous life? What capacities or features of consciousness had you developed, and what had you not developed? Because only some things are experienced, and so we have to move in through many lives, because the being is so complex, so vast. Someone who may have been a poet, a very great poet, strong, with a very big, you might say, self-consciousness about his genius. He was great, he was strong, he was powerful. Perhaps did not know simplicity, humility. And so he was reborn in the next birth to go through those experiences. It's very surprising, because mother spoke about Amritada. He was Victor Hugo. Victor Hugo was somebody, if you know Amritada, is very unlike Amritada, who was an exceptional being, no doubt, who had to carry the load of the ashram and all its difficulties, and he never stopped smiling, and he never lost his sweetness and his simplicity. But he was like a child. He used to always be with us like a child. And there you think that this person was Victor Hugo, or the same person was Michelangelo. They have this tremendous force of creativity, genius of power but vitality. Here you have to lose that vitality and be something much simpler, which is not as easy at all. So when we gain something, we forget to develop other parts of our nature. And so it's a journey that is, you might say, more or less spherical. It has to take in other elements. It's not a linear journey. But these lives, these new personalities that have forgotten the previous personalities, but we have grown through them. So there is a moment where you say this person has developed, has become a very strong mental being. Whereas earlier, maybe that mentality had not been allowed to grow. He was completely caught up in his physical activities or vital activities. So those things are like springboards or preparations for the next stage. And so these numberless lives, these new oblivious personalities, and keep still lurking in our conscious acts the trail of old forgotten thoughts and deeds. That is also the problem. We can't get rid of the past. It clings to us. It's not that we are born into a new form, into a new situation, completely free from all the past. The past, the universal past, the earth's past, our individual's past, all these are there. And that is why it is so difficult to be able to say, I'm free. Man is not free. He's not free from his own self, his own ignorance, his own lower nature. They are not remembered by him, but they are there. Which is why we fall back into the same errors, the same blindnesses as before. So only the self can disown the legacy of our buried self. That is the connecting line. Otherwise, the self that builds this figure of self and keeps still lurking in our conscious acts the trail of old forgotten thoughts and deeds. All this is our surface nature. Only the deeper divine presence in us can disown the legacy of our buried selves. It's an inheritance. The inheritance of ignorance. Inheritance of the slow journey of consciousness out of greater inconscience. It's a very slow process. But it's not only you say, I have not, your legacy is really not something you have earned. It has been given to you. So, in my present life, I may do the best I can to progress, to change, to grow, to aspire. But there is the legacy of the buried selves, all the journey that has been made out of inertia and the lower nature and inconscience and the subconscious. All these things are what is part of our inheritance. And we can't simply say, I am not like this. I am. I am inferior. I am dark. I am twisted. I am perverted. I am. My conscious being, you say, no, I want only the light and truth. That is the whole problem with the subconscious. These lower elements, they stay there, lurking in the subconscious. And they drag us down. Consciously we don't want. And yet in our lower nature, it is there. Can I get rid of my lower nature? Just like that. Only if I allow the Supreme Divine to take over. Otherwise, no. Because in my human personality, I may say I dislike what is ugly, I dislike what is dark, I dislike falsehood, I dislike all the things that connect me with error and pain. I don't want them. It's all right, true, I don't want them, but I have them, whether I want them or not. Because they are there. That is the whole problem. The subconscious is the most difficult part to change because they are, obviously by definition, it is below the level of consciousness. I'm not even aware. Here and there, now and then, in an action, in a reaction, in a dream, in a gesture, we see these ugly things come up to the surface. You didn't want them, then how was it that you did? You spoke like that or you acted like that. It's almost in spite of ourselves. Or you say ourselves are very, very complex beings. There are layers to our nature. It's not just the inconscious, it is the subconscious. It's a very complicated place. It's Mother compares it to a cellar, she says in the class. It's like a big, in a house, formerly they used to have big cellars and things you don't want, you just throw them into the dark cellar. But they're there. And if you put them in the dark, they acquire all kinds of dirt and all kinds of... They stay there. You can make your surface house beautiful, but what about the dark cellar? Our nature is that we do have a cellar. We do have a subconscious. It's what links us with the lower creation. It's the beginning of breaking out of the inconscience. In the inconscience, there is a certain lack of movement and change. Elsewhere, he describes divine inconscience. There's a sense of rest, of quietness. The subconscious, that is not there. The beginnings of something that is breaking out of that. When it breaks out, it doesn't necessarily break out in harmonious or luminous manners. Things you never thought you could be or do, things that really horrify you in others, are there in all of us. They're all there, we're part of that, we made that way. So this is the legacy of our buried self. That's why the next line says, the burdensome airship. It's like a burden that you can't throw off. To our vanished forms, accepted blindly by the body and soul. This is... Inheritance. Selective? No. Collective, there is also that. There is a collective, there is an individual, both. Because everybody is not moving on the path of evolution all together. It's not like a herd of sheep. There are some who are ahead, some who are not. And those who are ahead, some of the comments that Sri Aurobindo makes about people who are extremely, you might say, gifted, who have a great deal of opening to greater worlds of vision and light, have also a very strong vital. That vitality is often the cause of experiences in their own lives which are not beautiful, to say the least. That's why if you are reading about great geniuses, great artists, great creators, they have done and written and made wonderful things. Don't read their biographies. The details of their existence, which when they are not creating, when they are not painting or writing poetry or building a magnificent temple or fighting great wars and winning empires, they are exceptional beings, no doubt. But that same vitality is the cause also of great disorder. The saint and the sinner live together. You call it a sinner if you like, it's not a sinner. But otherwise, the saint would be a being who is completely anemic, I think, lifeless. He needs energy. And that has to be really slowly acquired. And the lower nature has to contribute, has to take part. It's very slow, but it has to take part and slowly develop and contribute its energy, its power, its force. Otherwise, the saint can live in his solitary cell. That's why he did move away from the world and live in a world where there's nothing to distract him. He didn't want desire, so he went and lived in a cell or in a dark cave. There was nothing to desire there. Did he conquer desire? Or there was nothing to desire? That is not the solution. You don't turn your back to the problem if you want to solve a problem. And it is collective as well. Humanity as a whole and the individual also. We are both. So this is the burdensome heirship of our merits to our vanished forms, the past, accepted blindly by the body and soul. An episode in an unremembered tale, its beginning lost, its motive and plot concealed. A once living story has prepared and made our present fate. Child of past energies. This is the main sentence. A once living story has prepared and made our present fate. The past that was once there and is no longer there, it was alive then. I am today what I am because I was what I was. In the past it had life, it had activity, it has power, it has energy. That has been wiped off by time, and today I am a different person in a different setting, but this present is the child of the past. It's very difficult. That is why every existence is like an episode. It's only one part of a very long story. Man's existence is a very long story. It's a story of a soul that has to gradually emerge from darkness to light. It's a very long, slow emergence, and also not a continuous emergence either. There are moments when the light or the spirit does emerge, and then again, because the outer being is so strong in its attachments and attractions, the soul retires back into the background. And it stays retired for quite some time. It's not as if we are progressing from life to life. We should, we could, but we don't usually. So if this is the case, then how can we break out of this chain? Someone has to do that for us. This is the reason why that being has come down into our world, accepted the circumstances of the human experience, and break this bondage so that others, if they choose, can follow in her footsteps or his footsteps. That has been the contribution of every avatar. He's the divine who becomes human, puts on humanity, voluntarily, but humanity with all its weaknesses, defects, errors, sufferings, everything. He's not here to escape pain. He's come here, he has accepted pain, knowingly. But once he has accepted it, he really follow the whole course. So this is what she has come to do here, Savitri. This is the issue. The fixity of cosmic sequences, fastened with hidden inevitable links, sequences because everything seems to have connected, a cause prepares an effect. It's part of a chain. The effect becomes the next cause and then creates the next effect. And it is a continuous story. If that is the case, then we are trapped, we are bound by that chain. That chain has to be broken. So this requires some greater strength because it is a chain that has lasted for infinite number of years. This pattern, this causal chain it is called. And it's not that I am an individual free, I think I am, but I am not free. I am trapped by so many things, including my own self, my own past. And it is preparing me in my particular way only. I cannot have the knowledge of the all. I have only this little line of development which is before me. Then how can I finally become one with the Supreme, the Eternal, the Immortal? Though I say, yes, I want the immortal. God, light, freedom, immortality, all these are the earliest preoccupations that has troubled or bothered humanity. They remain only preoccupations. They have not become actualities or they have not become realizations because we are trapped in these things. Because they are fastened with links. She has come to break that because we can't on our own. The fixity of cosmic sequences fastened with hidden inevitable links she must disrupt. Dislodge by her soul's force her past, a block on the immortal's road. She has to do it for her. First, she has to do it herself. She is born a mortal. The past of the mortal is that he is a child of death. Death will always pull him. She has to take away that acceptance of servitude. She has to dislodge this servitude. By her soul's force, her past. Make a raised ground and shape anew her fate. Raised ground, as if the past has to be wiped off. Nothing. There is no past. Then only can we move into a fresh, new future. Otherwise, the future is always dictated by the past. But if we want a completely free and absolutely undistorted future, we have to wipe off the connection with the past, that is this world of ignorance and unconsciousness, of limitation, which is the reason why we are trapped. So these are the two forces. Death does not want to go because death has been controlling creation for a long time. She has come to say, you have been controlling the world for a long time, it's time now you left. A new age has to come. So this is why the image of the battle. Every epic is a battle, and this is her battle. A colloquy of the original gods. It's not just a conversation or a debate, it's a clash here. A colloquy of the original gods, meeting upon the borders of the unknown. This battle is not taking place in the physical plane, on the physical plane, but the plane that is beyond the physical.
How would you explain who are the original gods? They are the ones that decide the fate?
The two creative forces, the gods, the power of creation in
Those
this
who
world,
create and decide.
and the in that world of darkness, there is a power of creation, that is how manifestation starts, and the power of darkness which also lasts. These are the two very great powers.
So that's why there is a colloquy or
Yeah, it's a clash between these. There's the power of darkness, it's the first power, and there is the power of light that wants to break that darkness. And she is light. Savitri is the daughter of the sun. So it is light versus darkness, life versus death. This is the story, this is the
So they
issue.
come together and it sounds like they are deciding whether, she's going to go this way or that way.
It's not,
Do you
they-
get that feeling?
No, I don't think they're deciding. It has to be wrestled out.
Or she has to?
It's a battle.
Oh yeah,
It's a
because
battle.
she gives her soul is
Yes,
saying,
it's a battle.
I have to win.
Nobody has done it before. She is doing what has never been done before.
So she is faced with the two powers of
She is the
creation.
power.
She is herself the
She
power.
is the power and death is the power. This is the connection with the previous canto. This was the day that Satyavan must die. So on this day now, this intensity is at its maximum because today she has to confront this problem.
Those two powers.
The power of death and darkness and failure, so that we return again and again to the starting point, into inconscience, to climb back little bit out of it, fall back again, or break this chain and so that a new age can manifest, and that is what she is. She is the force of evolution. Savitri is nothing but the force of change, the force of evolution, the force of transformation.
Here it says she has to vindicate her right to be and love. So
Exactly.
she's battling with the forces so that she can break through and bring
Her life, she is the earth consciousness.
Thank you.
On earth. In fact, Satyavan is the soul of the earth. So this is the whole thing, but there is also an irony here. This colloquy, meeting on the borders of the unknown, her soul's debate, colloquy, it's not a gentle conversation here. It's going to be a very strong argument, which is there very powerfully there in book 10, with embodied nothingness. Death is not. And yet it is the most powerful presence in our world. This is the paradox. Death is an absence, it's not a presence. And this absence fills the whole world. So it is this, she is the presence, he is the absence. He is the darkness, he is the void. She is the power. So this is the main debate. This must be wrestled out on a dangerous, dim background. The result of the battle is not told to us. Because the power of this void and darkness is also infinite. Death is an almighty power created by the divine as well. Nothing is which is not created by the Supreme. And death has also been created by the same origin for his own reasons. But a time has come when it has to move out from the stage. But he will not want to, and he does not want to. So this is the battle. She will have to say, your time is up, you have to go.
So death is expired.
Yes, death needs to expire.
Death is not.
Expired.
Yes.
See it again.
Yeah. Even there's a line here. Even there shall come as a high crown of all the end of death, the death of ignorance. When ignorance dies, death will die. That as long as ignorance has not died, death will be very alive.
He's got food, lots of food.
Yes, death has to expire. You're right.
Your time is up.
That is the thing.
But then,
Yes.
Jhumur, then why does he sometimes use eternal death?
It has been. And it has been there for as long as we can really even think of. But if you go still further, it is a power of the eternal.
Yeah.
Power of the one.
Of the eternal, isn't it also? It is a power created by the eternal for his own reasons. There's nothing that is not a power of the eternal.
It's the place of how do you say that, the lack of connection with the one,
Yes.
the separation.
Yeah, that is that.
It's because if there was no what I understand, I'm asking you there, but that you had to create the separation, right, from the one. Otherwise, you
there
would
would be
have
no
a creation,
diversity, exactly.
right? So then there is a separation, and from the separation, then you don't know the one anymore.
Exactly.
So you are on
Very
the side
ignorance.
of the darkness.
That's
And
it.
if you are on the side of the darkness, that is called
Then
ignorance. The moment you
In the
get
side of
back-
darkness it comes with all its gifts of pain, sorrow,
Yes,
suffering,
because
all
you
these
don't
things.
feel the
And
presence.
because you suffer, a point comes when
I need to pen.
you drop your book.
Pen to the head.
You don't need it.
She's just underlining.
That's part of his job today. Doing that.
the pen bear.
I'm learning
As
to
long
bend. I have movement that I haven't had in 36 years.
As
and
long as
I'm
he is
using it.
you're the pen bearer, not the pain bearer. Okay, so everything is fine.
No, it's perfect.
Yeah, so then you have there had to be that separation, but the separation is wanted, so it's like
Now the separation brings the sense
Yes.
of suffering, being cut off from the origin. And because we suffer, we start yearning for
and
joy.
the only issue is the yearning, right? The concentration
You
on the
will
one.
yearn only when you have suffered enough. Perhaps.
Like, what's going on?
It's only when we have gone through all the pain and the suffering that we start really realizing that it's enough, it has lasted long enough, it has to go. But otherwise you say, no, that's how it is, everything is fine. I've been given quite a long life, I'm 80 years old, it's fine, it's not bad.
And
We get
obviously,
adapted.
It'll be all right.
More or less. This sense of mediocrity, which is also, one of the worst possible things. So this is why she has come. Her being must confront its formless cause against the universe weigh its single self. The formless cause that is there, which is again death. We are born from death. She is also born from death. She has taken a human birth. She has to face that and say, I don't want you. You have to face the enemy. So you have to know the enemy from very close. You have to come face to face with your enemy. And why is she doing it? This is the universal law. One person, Savitri says, this law has to change. That is the battle. She has come to change this law. The law of the reign of death over life. Life is a daughter of eternity, whereas now it is a daughter of time. That is the whole problem. A child of eternity. It's a projection from the eternal, but it has become a daughter of time. There we are. You can stop there.